G'day guys, Jeff here. Welcome to another 15 minutes in the brewery. It's Tuesday night. It is the 6th of September. Got an interesting conversation tonight. So just a casual conversation over a beer, of course. And it's an interesting one tonight because I think, we like to celebrate our successes. We like to celebrate when things go right. We like to promote our beers when they're awesome, and we want to show the entire world how good we are. Less so when we make mistakes, especially mistakes that cost us beer, which I've done twice in the last 2 weeks. So where to begin? Well, I'll begin with the beer. So this is what I'm drinking tonight. This is a hybrid beer. By hybrid, I mean it's part lager, part pale ale. And there's a reason for both. A few weeks back, I brewed a lemon pilsner, which I wasn't that happy with. It was quite astringent when I first brewed it. The astringency has died down quite a bit now. But it makes a fairly good base beer. And I've been punishing myself by drinking it, forcing myself to drink it, so I remember never to put lemons in the boil again. And I think that's a good way of doing it. It's a good way to remember, right? There's nothing like punishing yourself with something to really push it in. It's like rubbing your face in something, like rub your face in it to make sure you don't do it again. So not that works. That doesn't work with dogs or cats. Don't ever try that with dogs or cats. It's a waste of time. It doesn't work. So what it is a mixture of my lemon pilsner and a pale ale. Now, why would I be mixing a pale ale with that? Well, that's the first mistake. About 2 weeks ago, I kegged a pale ale. I did a Galaxy, Vic Secret, like just basically Australian hopped pale ale. It's a fully Australian pale ale, apart from the yeast. I did a Kolsch yeast. German, I think it was the Lallemand Kolsch yeast, which I just did that because I had it in stock and needed to use it up. So I used up 2 packets of Kolsch yeast. It was a great beer, really was. The Galaxy was a bit hot when it finished fermenting, but that was okay. And Galaxy can be like that. It can be a little bit just, I don't know, it's just hot. It's how I explain it. It's like it's a little bit astringent. Hop burn, they call it, I guess. But smelled amazing. Great beer. No dramas, no problems, technically good. The problems happened when I went to transfer it to the keg. Because I've been brewing lately, I've been fermenting lately with my Nano-X fermenter. And I like the Nano-X. It's a great fermenter, stainless steel, and I wanted to get into stainless steel fermenters. It's a stainless steel bucket conical with the whole lid comes off, which is great. You can clean it, you can pour boiling water in it. It's just fantastic, Plastic's great, don't get me wrong. Plastic's light, see-through, etc., etc. But the stainless steel just lasts forever. You can, and as long as you don't hit it with a sandpaper or something like that, you'll be fine. So easy to clean, so easy to maintain, and all that sort of stuff. But the problem I'm having with it at the moment is I was fermenting a lot in my Fermenter King Chubby, which is obviously a pressure fermenter, and the main reason why I pressure ferment is for the transferring, the oxygen-free transfers. It means I can just transfer beer out of this without moving it. I don't have to move this above a keg, so it's higher than a keg, to get beer out of a tap. Unfortunately, with the Nano-X, I don't have the pressure kit for it yet. So I have to transfer using gravity, which means I have to get the fermenter out, lift it up to here, transfer down into a keg. And with hoppy beers, I'm still getting used to the internal pickup tube inside it. So it's like a stainless steel conical. So it's got a, what do you call it? It's got a, the transfer port, but inside it's got like a U-shaped piece of stainless steel tubing that you turn, and that inside turns, so you can turn it so you don't get hops and yeast and stuff inside it. So, and I transferred the beer, but I had issues with hops getting into it, and I had it turned. I was trying to make sure I wouldn't get hops in it, but unfortunately I got hops into the keg. Now, I actually didn't think I got that much hops in. I didn't think that much got into the keg. But it turns out quite a lot got into the keg. I didn't realise that. And obviously it blocked the keg up constantly. And I spent a good week every day. I'd come out and I'd try it and I wouldn't be able to get anything out of it. So I would try to unblock it and I couldn't. So what I did was I spent a full afternoon, hour and a half, just unblocking it. So I would pressurize it, go to get some beer out, wouldn't come out, take the post off, beer would shoot, I'd release the pressure till it was just a tiny bit of pressure, take the post off, beer would shoot out, hops would blast out everywhere, the poppet inside and the spring would be completely chockers full of hops. And I did that, no kidding, probably about 25 times. And I thought I cleared it, and I left it for a few days to settle. Went to see if I could get a beer out, couldn't. So I did that another 5 times. It seemed to be cleared, put it back in the fridge, let it settle for a couple of days, went to try it again, couldn't get any beer out. Did it again, this time I needed to do it twice and it poured clear again. So, but there's still a lot of minute hop residue in the beer, it's just terrible. And all up, I have lost at least 5 litres of beer just down the sink, just trying to flush the hops out. And that's a lot of hops in the beer. I did not realise I got that much hops in the beer. See, with the, I've done a lot of pale ales and New England IPAs in this, but I've got, if you can see that, I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a filter. So I use this with a filter, and I don't have any hops getting into my kegs. That unfortunately has that stainless steel pickup tube inside it, and you can't put a filter on it. I really should be transferring out of the top, which means I should be buying the pressure kit so I can transfer out the top. But I want to try and use it in the interim until I can afford to pressure kit, because there's so many other things we're going to pay for. And I was hoping to be able to do hoppy beers in it without having to worry about the pressure kit for the time being. I don't care if I have to carbonate them in the fridge with the CO2 separately. That doesn't bother me for the time being. It's more so the transfers and not being able to get hop matter in the keg. So that's the first mistake, and the beer was so astringent. There was so much hops. I estimate I probably got about 20 grams of hops in the keg. No, I kid you not. It was that I've never got that much hops in a keg, never in my life. And I still don't know how I didn't notice that much hop go through the hose, but anyway. And I didn't transfer it. I didn't do a closed transfer into the keg via gravity. I actually just, I filled the keg with sanitizer, pushed it out with CO2, and then when it came time for transfer, I just opened the lid. I released the pressure, I opened the lid carefully so I wouldn't disturb the CO2 in the keg, dropped the hose in, connected it, transferred it in a few minutes, and yeah. So the beer's very astringent because it has hops in the keg, which made it super astringent. It was like hop tea, it was awful. It's getting better now that most of the hops have been pushed out. I think I was left with about 9 litres in a Corny Keg. 9 litres. That's how much I had left, I think, after going through all the hassle of trying to get the hops out. But I kept doing it because it's better off I'd rather have 5 or 6 litres than just tip the whole thing out. I was really wanted to try and get at least something out of that batch because it's expensive. You put a lot of effort, time, love, patience, work, hops, malt. You know, you go to a lot of effort to make beer. You don't want to just tip it out for no reason. You want to try, especially with something like hops, you just want to try and get as much out as you can. You want to try and get as much beer as you can. I mean, if it's infected, which is the next story, yeah, then you have no choice. You just got to tip it. So the reason why I'm mixing it with the lager is the lager's actually mellowed out quite well now, and that just cuts down the astringency of that pale ale. It's still very astringent, a lot of hop bite, and I'm probably just going to end up tipping it in the end. I don't think I'm going to be able to salvage anything in that keg, to be brutally honest. I think it's just going to have to just tip it and just try and work out how to transfer next time from that particular fermenter without getting hops in the keg. So, and it's just a matter of new gear. I've got new gear and I'm trying to work out how to use it without mucking up my beers. And I'm not that great a homebrewer. I mean, I've only been homebrewing since July 2019, so I've pretty much been brewing since just before COVID, and COVID hasn't stopped. So, yeah. Anyway, second issue. Last week, I brewed another pale ale, a second iteration, which I was going to brew anyway. And that brew day went off quite well, no problems at all. The brew was great. Tried a few new methods. I had a new filter for my hops in the kettle, and I tried a new method for hop standing at the end, which worked well first time, and it was a good brew day, like I said. Kegged it. Sorry, no, I didn't keg it. Sorry, I cubed it, put it in a hot cube. Did a no chill in a hot cube. Put the hop cube in here for a couple of days, and then transferred it again into the Nano-X fermenter, and it brewed really well. It was Vic Secret, Ella, Astra, and Australian Cascade. So another Australian pale ale. Love that combination. Just beautiful fruity hops. All Australian hops too. Even the Cascade's an Australian hop because it's grown here. It has a higher alpha acid here in Australia than it does in the US. Much higher, actually quite significantly higher, to be honest. I think it's nearly 9% alpha acid in Australia. 8.5%, 9%, something like that. And it was great. Tasted really good. The first sample, when I put it into the fermenter and I tried it after I did this gravity reading, was great. And then I sampled it before I dry hopped it. It tastes great. Dry hopped it. Oh, sorry, no, I didn't dry hop it. So I'm getting mistaken. That was the beer before. That was the one where I put, yeah, that was that one. Sorry, no. I fermented it out for 6 days. Then we went away last weekend for Father's Day. We went away for the whole weekend. And I thought I'll just let it finish off over the weekend. When I get back on Sunday, it'll be 7 or 8 days. Perfect time. Fermentation will be done. I could start cooling it and dry hopping it for a couple of days. No problem. Came out here, did a sample, pulled the sample out. Oh, that smells a bit weird. When I tried it 2 days before, it was down to 10, 11. It smelled good. It smelled fruity. It tasted good. 2 days later, hop taste had completely gone. Hop aroma had gone. And in its place was infection. Oh, that kicks you in the guts when you make a beer and it's all going really well and you've had samples and it tastes good, smells good, and then suddenly, bang, infection. That just kicks you in the guts. Opened the top of the fermenter, so I took the whole top of the bucket off because, I smelt the sample and I could tell something was dreadfully wrong. And as soon as I took the top off the fermenter, you could smell it. It was awful, and it was getting worse. It was pretty much, I think they talk about diaper or baby vomit, that kind of smell, which is infection. So I was racking my brain the whole afternoon trying to work out how I got that bloody beer infected, because I have not gotten a beer infected in 2.5, 3 years, like properly infected like that. And I was just racking my brain. I was so looking forward to dry hopping that pale ale and then kegging it, and I would have been drinking it tonight, and I would have been sitting here with a glass of it telling you how awesome it was and how I'd overcome these issues with the kegging and finally managed to keg a beer properly, but not to be. But I did actually think of 2 potential issues that it could have been, and both of those issues were complacency. 2 different things that I did where I didn't 100% clean the thing that I should have cleaned every single time because I was complacent. One of them was a silicone hose I put on the top of the fermenter that goes onto a stainless steel bung. Just goes into a bottle of Star San. I kept the bottle of Star San for 3 different brews, and that could be an issue. The Star San can break down over time. It's not necessarily going to last over time. The other issue is the hose I used, I actually didn't clean it. I didn't even think about it too. I didn't even think about it. It just slipped my mind to even clean that bloody hose and sanitize it. And I know it sounds stupid, right? You don't do that, but I think I just got complacent. And the other one was I just got the yeast collection kit for the Nano-X. So it's just that little jar that goes on the bottom of the fermenter, and it's the Brew built one which goes on the Brew built fermenters. It fits that because it's a TC, like a 1.5 inch triclover connection, so it goes on the bottom of that one, no problem. The butterfly valve, And I wasn't sure if I should have the butterfly valve open from the beginning of fermentation or closed. So I left it closed. I had sanitized that container. It was sanitized with the fermenter. It was all sanitized together. Sanitizer was drained out and eventually tipped out in the end. And but I decided to close it for some reason. I wasn't sure if you have it open to start with or if you have it closed and then you open it when the fermentation is done. So I left it. And then at day 5, I opened it because the fermentation is pretty much done or close to being done. And I thought, well, I'll just open it now and just let the yeast drop down into it so I can dry hop. That way we'll get the yeast away from the pickup tube and allow the dry hops to go down lower so I don't get them in the pickup tube. But before I went to take it off, a whole bunch of sanitizer, like the foam, the Star San foam, that had actually condensed back into liquid in the bottom, and I thought, oh, I don't know if I want that in my beer. So I took it off and I tipped it out and I put it back on. I did that quickly. I shouldn't have done that. What I should have done is I should have left the butterfly valve open day 1, let the beer go straight into the sanitized yeast collection container day 1. I shouldn't have left it. And I think that's either that or that hose, one of those two things has caused the infection. And both of them are just stupid things on my part. They're just complacency. And by complacency, I mean like just not thinking that this is going to be a real issue. Not realizing that what should I say? Not taking sanitization seriously. Like you really need to be on the ball with all your sanitizing in your brewery all the time. Especially with fermented beer. Fermented beer should never come into contact with anything that's not properly sanitized to start with. And I mean the hose at the top, what happens at the end of the ferment, you get condensation under the lid. Condensation goes up into the hose, collects in the hose, bacteria can grow in there, and it drops back down into the beer. So I mean it's either one of those points is where I got the infection. I was kicking myself. As you do, you kick yourself, you just think, you know, how stupid can you be? How stupid can you be? Like honestly, you put that much time and effort to making beer and then you do something stupid like that ruins it. Anyway, hopefully it's lesson learned. Hopefully I got enough kick in the guts to realize that I've got to stop being so complacent and everything has to be spot on every time. I have to have all my processes spot on. When I'm brewing, all my gear has to be clean and sanitized. The hoses, the jar with sanitizer in it, the blow-off tube goes into that. It needs to be tipped, cleaned, refilled. The hose needs to be cleaned, sanitized, put back on. Everything has to be procedure. Don't deviate from it. And that's how good breweries make consistently good beer. They follow procedures, they follow recipes, they follow guidelines for cleaning and sanitizing, and they do not deviate from them. And they don't get complacent. So, but as a home brewer, you know, we do. There's often times where we're in a rush, we have to go out, we've got to do something with the kids, we've got commitments, we've got to run in, try and dry hop the beer really quickly because we've got to go somewhere, and it's if I don't do it now, I'm not going to get it, you know, it's going to be 2 days, and you might take a shortcut because you're in a rush. You just need to slow down. Do things properly. And I think hopefully I've learnt my lesson. I rebrewed that beer today, same recipe, same hop schedule, did it all today, this morning, except this time I put Lutra Kveik yeast into it and it should ferment out in about 2 days. It's already fermenting now 6 hours after I pitched the yeast and it's blasting away in there. So hopefully it'll be slightly different to US-05. It will be slightly different, but I don't mind. Lutra Kveik, I find that actually cleaner than US-05. To be honest, I think it's such a clean yeast. It's such a nice yeast. So making that beer again, and hopefully this time, no infections, no yeast in the keg, no hops in the keg. Hopefully we can get a nice good pale ale and get it in the keg, get it into the glass, and put another win on the board, and keep brewing. So that's it. That was probably 25 minutes in the brewery today, not 15. Sorry I lied to you at the beginning of the video. I did not mean to lie to you. I just had words to come out of my mouth and they just keep coming out until they stop. So hopefully that wasn't a boring video, but hopefully that's a lesson to all homebrewers. slow down, procedure, do your procedures properly. Don't get complacent, don't make mistakes. You spend a lot of time and energy in making recipes, buying ingredients, brewing batches of beer, fermenting everything. There's money, time, sweat, blood and tears in everything we do. So don't be complacent. Cheers. See you in the next video.